Is it relationship OCD or are there genuine relationship problems? This is something that I actually get asked a lot. So many people who struggle with OCD also kind of struggle in their relationships. Trying to figure out if actually the person that they're with is really the right kind of person for them, if they're actually truly happy with that person, if they're really in love with them or not. So many different questions kind of come up in this kind of situation. And I think if we're not careful, the OCD can kind of come into the relationship and can kind of really ruin things. So often people have told me that they've started to kind of date people and maybe things initially are going really well. And then one day a kind of OCD thought, it just pops up out of nowhere and it completely changes the equilibrium of the relationship, because suddenly now you're really focused on a specific idea that you don't like. Maybe you've noticed something about your partner that concerns you, or maybe you don't find them that attractive because of this thing. And it can be very, very frustrating, whereas before you really did have a lot of certainty about the relationship. Maybe you felt that things were going pretty well and you were quite happy. And now suddenly out of the blue, you're questioning everything. You're not sure if you want to be in this relationship anymore. And suddenly now, every time that you see that person, they kind of remind you of this obsession. Because if we're not careful, if you already struggle with OCD, unfortunately, your relationship and as a consequence, your actual partner, the other person, can become the kind of OCD theme where every time that we see that person, we're almost reminded of that obsession. They actually, when we see them, we can even feel anxious, because rather than being that person that makes us feel good, that gives us that nice feeling, that makes us feel cared for and happy and loved, now when we see that person, they remind us of our fear, they remind us of our anxiety, our uncertainty, and we might even start to avoid that person. We may really start to question that the relationship isn't right. And I think you need to be really, really careful here, because if that's a situation that you find yourself in, it might be that actually the relationship is absolutely fine. And if you're struggling with relationship OCD, I do have a 12-week program to help you to break free from OCD. If you're interested in that, you can head over to my website, robertjamescoaching.com. There's a link in the show notes. And now on with the rest of the episode. All that's happened is that the OCD has kind of chosen to kind of jump onto it, to make an obsession out of it, and to make you start obsessing about it. And of course, once you start to obsess about your relationship, you can easily get lost in that, as you can in just about anything. And this is the thing about OCD. It's a real shapeshifter. It doesn't just stick to one theme. For some people, it does. For some people, they tend to kind of stay stuck on one thing. But for many, many people, it doesn't at all. It's jumping around, it's moving, it's going to all sorts of different ideas and themes. And, if it's jumped onto your relationship, be careful about making snap decisions about things, because you may be breaking up with somebody, or choosing to kind of do something based on, kind of incorrect information, or at least not really understanding the full picture. So how do you know if it's OCD that's actually the problem here? Well, if you're looking for 100% certainty about your relationship, if you're always trying to say, well, yeah, I am happy when I'm with them, when I let go of that overthinking, I'm just present, but if you get caught up in this idea of needing to know if you're definitely with the right person, if you found the one, or if this person, is always going to make you feel good, is always going to make you feel happy. I think sometimes we get caught up in looking at the future and we start projecting, well, what's it going to be like with them in 5 years' time, or 10 years' time, or 20 years' time? What if I'm no longer so physically attracted to them? Will I still be attracted to them on that emotional level or that intellectual level, or this or that or that? And before we know what's happened, we've created this kind of nightmare situation, this kind of jigsaw puzzle where we've pulled out lots of the different pieces and we've lost them. That picture that was otherwise fine now seems to be imperfect because, we've kind of made it imperfect by going over all of these things and trying to figure them out. And the reality is, in the future, well, we don't really know how things are going to be. But if we try to kind of have that certainty about it all the time, we're likely to kind of make ourselves feel very, very anxious. And even in the present moment, similar things can happen. We can really get fixated on one imperfection, and we can kind of tell ourselves that now that we've seen that imperfection, now we can't unsee it. And every time we see that person, we're reminded of it. And it's going to remind us of our anxiety. It's going to make us feel very unsteady, very, very kind of anxious. And so if you recognize these things, it's worth pointing out to yourself that is an obsession. And actually what the compulsion normally is here is rumination, where we start thinking about it all the time. We start going over it, looking for certainty. Do I still find this person attractive? Do I still love them? Do I think they're intelligent enough? Or do they match me in the right way? Are they fun enough? Do they have the right sense of humor? Are they interesting enough? Are they outgoing enough? All of these kind of conditions that we put on things. And I think ultimately a lot of this stuff is actually unimportant. I think the more important thing when it comes to relationships is, does that person, show up for you? Are they kind? Are they loving? And do you trust them? If you have those major components in relationships, the other things are really not so important. Those are the things that OCD and ego tends to kind of latch onto. And these are things that are related as well to self-esteem, what we think other people think of us. The things that are actually important is, does that person create a safe space? Do they make you feel comfortable? Do they allow you to be yourself? These are the actual important things. These are the things that give you the ingredients in order to have a meaningful, lasting, important relationship with somebody where you can both grow and you can both evolve and become more yourself over time. If you have that, then I think you have grounds to have a good relationship, despite the fact that occasionally you may see imperfections that, maybe they do give you a bit of anxiety for a while. But as with all other types of OCD, if you don't allow yourself to ruminate on those things too much, if you learn how to let them go and to come back into the present, at some point you'll begin to forget about that thing again. And when you do, most probably some of those good feelings that you initially had will come back in. And really, relationships are often like that anyway, that there's ebbs and flows. Initially, obviously, there's the kind of love buzz. There's that great moment where you feel really happy with them. But at some point, that does come down. And then you're left with, some more uncomfortable moments with that person. And this is normal that, again, that love feeling often does come back for a while. And if we recognize that is actually just a normal part of relationships, that we don't run at the first sight of challenge or difficulty, or that we're not feeling the way in which we wish we were feeling, we can learn how to grow in that relationship. Now, obviously, there's a caveat here. If you're in an abusive relationship in any way, then obviously you shouldn't remain in that relationship. That's clearly a situation where you want to remove yourself. But if it's otherwise a positive and meaningful relationship, there's good things there, you feel that there's trust, that the person is kind, that they're willing to support you, they want you to grow, well, that's the kind of relationship that really can go somewhere, even with OCD there in the background. And remember as well, if you're somebody with OCD, you at times might be somebody that is vulnerable, that does bring that kind of difficult stuff to a relationship. So, if that other person is willing to support you through that, that wants you to grow, that wants you to do well, despite the fact that you might go through these challenges, well, perhaps you've really met somebody there that's a real winner, somebody that can actually really help you to learn to deal with your OCD and to become, more happy with yourself. And wow, that's something that might really be worth holding on to. So I really hope that you found that helpful. If you have any questions at all, do please let me know. And remember, I do offer a free discovery call. To get that, you can head over to my website, robertjamescoaching.com. There's a link in the show notes, and I will see you next time. This video is for education only. It's not therapy or medical advice. If you're struggling, please speak with a licensed mental health professional.